What's up? We're here with another review. This time we're talking about Nomadland. This will be a spoiler review, just so you guys know. Go check it out. It's on Hulu right now. I would highly recommend. But Nick, let's get into it and let's just talk about your initial thoughts. And what did you think of this movie?
So that's what the hype's about. That's my first thing. That's what all this hype has been about since it won what was it, the Golden Lion at Venice last year. This movie, for the best way I feel like I could describe it, like just off the top of my head, is like this movie felt like a dream in some sort of like weird, like I was just going along for the ride. Like especially like I was like watching at one point, I checked to see how much I had left, and like a whole hour had gone by. It didn't even feel like it. And I was like, oh my God, like that really only happens when you're just like lost in the movie, or you're just like so into it. And like, you're not paying like, you're not paying attention to anything else. You're just like in the movie. And so it really did just feel like this sort of this just dream. Like I was just like here, like going along with Frances McDormand on this journey. And it wasn't like some sort of like really haggard survivalist journey like in Logan. It wasn't some sort of like really like intense. It was just sort of just her like, and like I remember thinking like going into it, I was like, we're gonna see her like struggling to be like being like houseless as she puts it, and like not having the usual like amenities. But it wasn't as like, I guess, emotionally intense of like in like a survivalist type way. And it was just her just going from place to place. I really enjoyed just being there for the ride. I think this movie looks beautiful, which contributes to my dream statement. It just like I've seen like landscapes utilized before. Like it felt like a weird like modern day western, but like it also not a western. Just the natural area is just so cool. Like the visually it's just beautiful to look at. I love McDormand's performance. I love even the performance of like the people she keeps like running into or whatever. Um it's just this very like peaceful in a way like movie. You're just like going with it, going on this journey. It feels like a dream in the best way.
I could not agree more in the sense that the way this film is shot, I think I've never seen a shot that a film that's just so naturally beautiful. It's not like these massive constructions or anything. It's just our planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like the beauty of nature. And there's that scene at the beginning of the film where they talk about your connection to all these different things in nature and how you kind of lose it, and how this community is helping to get that sort of sense back. And you really do in this film. Um, I think some of the other things that really I can't get over the establishing shots, man. These establishing shots that they shoot every single time, I would just be like, wow. Like whether it's when she goes on that tour at the some sort of national
Yeah.
museum or national park, and it's just the rocks, and it's just her walking through the rocks. Like there's a beauty to all these small little things, and I think that's kind of the point of the story
Mhm.
is the beauty of all of that while she's coming to to terms with the loss of her husband. And this movie is trying to show more than like these people aren't homeless, they have a home, they want to live a different life than maybe you do, but that doesn't
Yeah.
mean they
Like
can't live their life.
it's like, yeah, these people have like been kind of like quote unquote like left behind by society, but like, Joker tackled the same thing, but Joker was a lot more like angrier about that situation. But here, just like they weren't mad, they just rolled with it, and they found their own like peace in their circumstances. And I love that first fire pit conversation where they're all like the other people are just introducing themselves and they're talking about like how they ended up there. And it was just like really cool to just hear some like they weren't like again oh, I lost my job, I like no, this happened to me. They're just like, no, I voluntarily chose to like do this. And I was like, that's so cool. That's like, but I also understand that a lot of people Chloé Zhao casted are actual nomads. So like, I'm not sure how many of them there were, but I was like, all of these could be like, are just real life accounts in some way. And I was like, that's just so cool that the film didn't like take pity on these people. They're just like, no, here's them in all their glory and all their, lifestyle.
Yeah, there is something so naturally beautiful about this. And I think that's kind of the kind of phrase I come back to.
Mhm.
It feels like it's honest. It feels it's really it's a quiet film. It's a very quiet film, but it's really thought provoking, and it makes you look at. I mean, for me, it makes me look at life in a different lens. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Of what it means to be happy, what it means to enjoy life. What do you really need?
Yeah.
And what does home mean? These are all really fascinating life questions that this film asks in a really creative way through a spectacularly immersive story. Getting to Chloe Zhao and her directing in this, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh, what stood out for you? I know for me, it was a lot of most all of it pretty much was handheld,
Mhm.
and I really liked the way that the camera moved. It wasn't distracting, but it was more than just, kind of capturing the characters.
Was, no, what's that first morning at the I'm not sure the gathering or whatnot, like of the nomads. There's like a tracking shot. Like she's Frances McDormand like is kind of like walking out, the camera's following, and like you see like just the community doing their thing. She says hi to a few people. Like some people are like, hey, you want to stay here? And she's like, no, no, I'm just going out for a walk. And I maybe like that's not necessarily like the standout segment like for you or for others, but I know for me, I was just like watching that. I was like, I love how this feels. It's just like the camera's just following her. You see, again, you just get such a great level of immersion of just this is a bustling community. This is vibrant. This is people that felt lived in, and we were. And Frances McDormand was like just presented in like the perfect like audience entry point of just like of this lifestyle. And I don't know, I remember watching that one shot and I was like, that's like I love the feeling of this. And I love also again how it was just shot. It was like the sun was just rising and like the way it was coming, like the rays were coming down on everyone. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah,
That's
and I love the way they mix story and environment and kind of the feel of the world, because I haven't seen anyone create a world better, um, like the world that the characters live in,
yeah.
than this film in at least a couple of years off the top of my head. I mean, it is that immersive. And I think that's what helps, you feel like you kind of could put yourself in Frances McDormand's character's shoe and like live her life, right? Because there's such a peace and a beauty, and there's these values and these little things. Like, for example, the plates that she has, right? That little piece of dialogue about how valuable the plates are. Um, and I love how it's those small things that people can really put value and find meaning in. It doesn't need to be these grand things like a massive house or a really super nice car.
Right.
um, and that kind of the arc of the plate of being together, like the most prized thing, and then crashing and breaking apart and then being assembled back together kind of feels representative of her life herself. Probably a stretch on my part, but it it feels like, she talks about how 2008 hit her family hard, because I believe story takes place in 2011.
Something like that. Yeah. It's like right around
uh,
the recession period.
yeah, I know it's based on a book, and I think it took right after the recession, which was a really difficult time. And she was in a town that was a single company town. The company left, the housing market crashed. I mean, people lose everything and they have to rebuild. And the story is about her rebuilding. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's again, it like the way they just don't like take pity on these people, the way they kind of like they don't go out of their way to like blame the government. They're just like these people got dealt a certain hand of cards and they're making the best of it. And I just like really I love that sort of almost objective, but like I don't know, that almost objective way because they're just like, no, this is them. That's what I really appreciated about how it was just written.
Yeah. And it almost feels like a documentary, which I think the handheld is partially a big part in that, to give you that sort of lived in real world feel to it.
Mhm.
Um, And I think that really helps push the story forward in a really helpful way that, it's a subtle thing, but it does wonders,
for
I think,
sure.
for the film. Moving on to Frances McDormand's performance. Wow.
Yeah.
This isn't the performance that normally gets hyped for an Oscar. It's
Mhm.
quiet, it's subtle, it's a lot of the stuff's in the silence, whereas most performances are loud and spectacular and really outgoing characters like Freddie Mercury. And that's not to say they're bad performances. Like Rami Malek gave a great performance, but sometimes there are better performances that are just more quiet and they don't get the attention. But this one is so good, you cannot avoid it. It is so
Yes.
good that no matter how quiet it may be, there is no avoiding that this is an amazing performance. And what else would you expect from Frances McDormand?
It's, I mean, like it's the quietest out of what is looking like the best actress race this year. Like she's the quietest performance, and also especially like you're right. It's just very understated. Very like it's a lot on just what's on like her like facial reactions, a lot on her body language, and she doesn't say much, but she still manages to like command the screen and the story so well. And I'm trying to think of like any particular that scene where like she has like that scene where she's like trying to get her truck fixed, for instance. Like she's still like she's like maintaining her composure, but like you see it like breaking out, like something from inside, like breaking out a little, and I'm just like she is so good. Like I mean, she's like I think one of my favorite actresses, and like I don't know. I think she's an easy front runner. I mean, it's funny because like she won her first Oscar for Fargo, and her performance there was like really like unlike what she does now, and it's gonna be funny just to like and I haven't seen Three Billboards just yet, so all I have to go off is Fargo. But I'm like, wow, she is like she's so different from what's the character's name, Marge Gunderson, and and like that character was like a relatively like talkative, like expressive person, and here again it's just really quiet, really focused, really like I don't know. It's a really, and I remember like about like 20 minutes in, I was like, I kind of was like anticipating more from her, but as I got more and more into it, I was like, I see why now this performance is getting so much attention. Um, it's just a really great, like understated facial, like just it's all in the facial reaction, all the body language. It reminds me a lot of Joaquin Phoenix in The Master. He has one scene where it's just like faces contorting, and then you could see just radiating off of him physically, and like there's lots of similarities there. So I really did enjoy what she did here.
Yeah, you got to see Three Billboards. That's another fantastic movie. Definitely worth watching. Um, yeah, there's something the way she uses her body language in this film and mannerisms, and I think especially the scene that kind of is emblematic of that is the scene that I keep on coming back to, which is in the national park, running around the kind of the rocks all around her, and just the way she runs. Like there's a like a giddy joy to the way that she moves,
Yeah,
and I think that's how her character is, right? Enjoying the little things, enjoying life,
she
connecting with the planet. Like I don't
she
know how to.
it like a lot of it is just like her character trying to free herself of like the various things, and like you just see like that. Remember that bus scene when they're in that like really expensive bus?
Yeah, yeah,
Like that was like really just a like a cute like just human moment for her and her friends, and it's just like and there are other moments where you see her just like playing around, but you also see her there's like still a lot like bundled up inside, and just um she says so much without saying anything verbally at all. It's just really she holds this whole film together. Not that like it needed holding together because everything else, all the other components are great, but she really does hold it all together really well.
yeah.
Do you think she's
Let's
the
move
front
on
runner?
to a
Oh, I sorry, I just
wrap
want
up.
to
Yeah,
add. Do you think she's
yeah,
the
that's what we'll start with. I
okay?
think she is the front runner.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of anyone else. I don't. I really like Zendaya's performance in Malcolm and Marie. I think Vanessa Kirby's really great, and Pieces of a Woman. I think Viola Davis is really great.
Maureen.
Um, hmm?
And no, I was just repeating. I was just repeating after you, Viola and Ma Rainey, Vanessa Kirby, and
Yeah,
then it's just I think it's what's her Carrie Mulligan and Promising Young, which I haven't seen.
right. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet, so I don't know. And for me, I mean, Letitia Wright, if she's considered best actress, I
Mm,
would say she'd be up there for Small Axe Mangrove, but
yeah,
no one's seen that film, so I think it might just be me. Um, but yeah, I think she is the front runner for sure. 99% sure she wins. Um, Other categories, best director, I think from what I've seen, unless Minari, it really blows my mind.
as
I think this is Chloe Zhao is one.
I think I think this is going to be a very easy best director, best actress block. I think it's also going to be a relatively easy. Best picture lock. I have to take the appraisal of like the other stuff, but I think I mean it won at TIFF, it won at Venice. Like you established that kind of momentum. Like there's a reason for it. I think it definitely could walk away with screenplay too, which I it'll be tough. I think it'd be best adapted. So I don't know who they'll be going up against, but
Yeah,
I think they'd be a contender.
I think they'd definitely be a contender for best adapted. I
Mm.
don't know how people are going to view the screen. I don't know how this was filmed. There may be a story behind how it was filmed.
Yeah,
Um, that may not feed into like I don't know. The Oscars are narrative based as opposed to how the screenplay that
right,
from page to screen was. But I think it's definitely in the mix, definitely a nomination.
for sure.
In cinematography, I think
Yeah, I I'm on.
unless they fall for Mank, which I
Um,
would disagree with.
no,
But
I don't think they will. I think whoever I don't think it was Zhao who did the cinematography. Whoever he is, I think he's got it. I think he's got it in the lock.
yeah, I think there's really, I think all the major categories that they could be involved in, they are the front runner, excluding like sound editing, mixing, visual effects, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Um, but with that, is there anything else, Nick, you want to cover about this? Because I think we've kind of wrapped it up.
No, I mean it's highly recommended. I think it's also going to be like a relatively harder. Like I feel like I can recommend Parasite, for instance, to like a lot of people just that has like different like momentum. But like I feel like people may be like, oh, it's the classic, like it's like, oh, it's slow. It's like I don't know like what's got like it's going nowhere. But I really do have to say this cracked my top 5 of 2020. It's kind of like bouncing around right now. I'm not sure where it's gonna land in its like um, Seoul and what else Palm Springs, but it's like it's cracked that very easily. And yeah, it's not what I expected, which is the best thing. Always love to be just caught off guard, be surprised by something.
Yeah, I think for me, it's one, two, three, maybe four at the lowest. I don't know. It's probably one if we're being honest. It's probably one. It's tough because I love Sound of Metal with every little bit of my heart. I think it's amazing. I love Small Axe Mangrove and I love Soul. I mean, I love One Night in Miami too, but it's not quite on the same level. But it's probably number one if we're being honest. You give me a week to really think about it, it'll be one.
Yeah,
But with that, that wraps up this episode, well, this review of Nomadland. Let us know what you guys thought in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video, and we'll see you next time.
peace out.